All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. Again, apologies about the delay. I'm just getting some technical difficulties figured out. It's my first time live on the internet. Hello, Mom. Kind of excited, but all right. So I'm going to open us up in a word of prayer, and we'll get going. Lord, thank you for the privilege that it is to be involved in leadership on this campus. Lord, I wish your blessing upon all of these candidates. They're all good people who want to improve this campus, are dedicated to serving you. Thank you for the honor that it is to work with them. Pray that you give them clear heads and your words. Amen. All right. Okay. Got my sheet here. I feel like a professor, launching just some dynamics or something. Okay. My clicker up, right? All right, disclaimer. That's right. Legal stuff. So in each candidate's interview, we asked them if they were comfortable with a more aggressive debate style, and they all said yes. So welcome to the Hunger Games. Basically, these debates are going to be a lot more like debates than the past few years have been. Has anyone ever been to one of these debates before, past years? Yeah? Yeah? All right, 3 of you. Great. Well, I do want to say that I'm so happy to have all of you here. This is a great turnout. This is awesome. So thank you all for coming tonight. We'll see how many of you are left by the end. So, how this is going to work. We're going to go through the non-student body president candidates first. And we're going to have, this should take about an hour or so. Then we'll have about a 10, 15-minute intermission when the pizza arrives. So it's on its way, they tell me, something like that. It will be here, and there will be a lot of it. To make sure there is none left by the time we're done. And then we will begin the presidential debate. So, alrighty. Some details about the format itself. We'll begin each candidate with a 1-minute intro statement about themselves. Then we'll have some scripted moderator questions. The Elections Committee has worked very hard to come up with relatively difficult questions. We'll see how that goes. Then the candidates will be allowed to respond to each other based on the questions. And then we'll have some time for audience questions. I hope some of you brought challenging and interesting questions for us to enjoy. And after that, each candidate will get about 1 minute to have a closing statement. Okay, some rules for the candidates. You may not interrupt a candidate's opening statement. Kind of goes without saying. You may interrupt, depending on the circumstances, a cross-exam or a response. In all cases, be courteous and respectful. It's okay to be firm, but be courteous and respectful. All right, and please do respect speaking time limits. We have 11 candidates here tonight, so we do not want to be here till 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. Well, most of us don't want to be here. All right. Oh, and without further ado, we will begin with LeTourneau Student Ministries president. All right. Our two contestants tonight are Anna Elder and Emily McCloy. Round of applause. All right, Anna, your 1 minute opening statement. Should have a mic right there. You may have to move it up to speak into that.
Yeah, can everybody hear me? I'm Anna Elder. I'm a junior counseling psychology major. I have not previously been in LSM, but I have participated in the different ministries that LSM runs. And right now I'm going to be co-leading Beach Reach, one of the spring break missions trips. I'm very passionate about missions. I have grown overseas all my life. I've participated in several overseas mission trips, and I've participated in ministry through Christian camp during the summers. And so I've been a part of a lot of different ministries, a lot of different service projects, and I'm really excited for the potential opportunity to serve LeTourneau in Somalia.
All right, thank you. And Emily, your opening statement.
My name is Emily McCloy. I'm a sophomore mechanical engineer. Currently, I am the missions vice president for LSM. So I'm one of 2 people organizing the 8 spring break mission trips coming up in a few weeks. I've also been involved in Kids Club, which is one of our community ministries, and I've also helped some with leading prayer and praise, which is in the campus branch. So I've been involved in all three branches of LeTourneau Student Ministries, and I'm familiar with how that process works. One of the things I really enjoyed in this position as missions vice president is the opportunity to get to know people and get them connected with the things that excite them in ways that they can serve, things that they didn't know they could do on the mission trips, for example. And that's something I hope to continue as president, should I be elected, is helping people get connected to the ministries that match their gifts. And helping other people who have ideas for things we haven't started yet, get those started. That's a lot of what LSM does, is helping you guys with the ministries you want to start and run.
All right, that's going to be time on that, so no worries. I hate doing that to people. I'm going to have to get better at that tonight. Okay.
It's not personal, I promise.
Alrighty, so the scripted question for you guys. This will be yours first, Emily, since Anna went first last time. All right. In light of your international travel experience and missions focus, why are you more qualified to serve LSM as president than as missions VP? And this applies to both of you. So, Emily, you can answer this one first.
Yeah, so I grew up in Nepal and India, so I'm familiar with a lot of the mission side of stuff. That's why I wanted to be the missions vice president. However, that's a lot of the little details of where are people going to stay, what are they going to eat. A lot of those little details I oversee, and I would like an opportunity to step back. And as president, you're overseeing the vice presidents for each branch, and you get to do a little bit more big picture stuff, helping the VPs where they need it, and then starting their stuff I've wanted to do as missions VP that I haven't been able to because I have to focus on all the little things. And so as president, I would be able to look more at the big picture, evaluating the ministries we have, how we can be more effective.
All right, thank you. And Anna, same question.
So LSM is formatted where there's a president, and then under the president there's several different vice presidents, and they oversee ministry in community, on campus, and missions, I believe. And so in the missions role, like Emily said, you're very involved in the details of mission trips, and that is also very interesting. But in the role of LSM president, your role is to be somebody who facilitates all of the people that work under you, and also kind of gets the focus of what LSM's purpose is on campus. And so as LSM president, I would love to focus LeTourneau on missions among each other, building Bible study groups or discipleship groups, and also missions overseas. And so that would involve spring break trips that maybe go overseas, or May trips that go overseas, along with the trips that we already do in the U.S.
All right, thank you. We're now going to have about 10 minutes of audience questions. So, do we have any volunteers to go first with audience questions? Oh, not all at once. All right, yes. Can we get a mic runner over there? Thank you.
In what specific ways would you help the community within or between dorms at LeTourneau?
And can you clarify if this question is for both of them, or for Anna or Emily?
For both.
All right. Anna, you want to go first?
Sure. You said community among dorms, like inner dorm? Okay. I think that's something that RAs, we have to work with RAs and residential staff on. Inner dorm relations is something that is done through events and people who are interested in it already. So we need leaders inside the dorms to participate in events that we planned for the dorms together, probably on campus. Did I get that? Did I get your question? Okay.
One idea I've had with that is working with the chaplains and the RAs, seeing what skills are there that students have that we aren't really using. And then starting ministries based off of that. And then from those, hopefully, we would have people from the different dorms coming together, realizing, oh, we have these things in common, that we can work together. And through the ministries, drawing them together like that.
All right, thank you. Okay, next audience question. Right there.
Okay, so this is for Anna specifically. You say you're a psychology major, yes? So most of us are either engineers or aviation, the vast majority at least. How can you, as a psychology major, relate to all the engineers and aviators?
That's a really good question. I think just first off, a lot of my friends are engineering majors, and my brother is an engineering major. So I know people who are engineers and in other majors. But in psychology, we study a lot of how people work and what they're interested in and what drives them. And so in that, I think I learned to understand people in general. And through that, I'll also be very intentional just to get to know people myself and meet people in different areas of the school. Actually, rugby is a really awesome opportunity for that. Is I get to meet people from several different majors from all over campus that I wouldn't know otherwise. But now I know them and I understand them better that way.
All right, and if you both could try to speak into the microphone a little bit more, I think our online viewers would, both of them would appreciate that. Anyway, audience questions. Yeah, one in the back. Mic runners, can we get that question back there?
Just yell.
Yeah. We have microphones, we must use them.
So one of the biggest things with LSM is that they do a lot of events on campus, but it seems like no one really knows about it. Is that it's very just like the secret society of campus is this LSM thing. So I guess twofold is how do you plan on getting more student turnout for it, or people to show up more often, and what do you plan on doing in the future to change LSM? Like what are some things that you plan on adding or taking away to it? And that's for both of them.
All right, Emily?
Yeah, so that's actually something I'd really like to work on is bringing back the media position for one as a starter. We used to have this media position, and from what I'm told, we didn't really use that a lot. This past year would have been really helpful to have someone in that. I have been doing a lot of advertising for spring break missions, but I think all branches need that. And so having a person dedicated to doing that, who has that skill set, helping people know what options are available, would be the first step in working towards that.
I think I would be very intentional to communicate and get to know people myself so that as I walk around, I can let people know what's going on because I know that I attend events where my friends are with me and where I know they're passionate about, and so I'm there. Otherwise, I would not go. So I would be very intentional to talk to people about events and why I'm excited about it.
All right, we have time for a couple more.
Yeah, this is a question for both of you. With the current state that LSM is currently in, what is your vision of what the next year is going to be, and what is your plan in order to execute said plan?
All right, Anna?
I really like a lot of what LSM does right now. So I'd like to continue pretty much everything LSM is doing, all the different ministries. This year started a Bible study with some friends, and we just asked Christy Morgan to ask ladies at her church if they would be interested in leading a Bible study. So I'd actually like to build a system for that, so that groups of students can get in contact with adults, grown-ups that would like to lead Bible studies. We won't actually do the Bible studies, but we just facilitate that relationship. And then something else that I'm very interested in is having an international mission trip in the spring and or in May.
All right, Emily?
Really like that first idea. I would come. get more students involved in a way that doesn't make them feel obligated that you should do this if you're a good Christian. And I think one of the ways of doing that is being open about it, friendly, without being careful how you say it, but then also using my connections, encourage my friends, and then building that network so that it becomes more of a kind of personal involvement of, oh, my friends are doing this, so I'm going to try it, and this is something I actually really enjoy doing that I wouldn't have thought about growing in student involvement in ministries through that.
All right, we have time for one more question. Yeah. What's that? Wait. Stand by.
Thanks. How would you guys like to see the spiritual atmosphere grow on campus specifically? But I mean, in the other branches as well. And it's for both of you.
All right, Emily, I believe it's your turn.
So how we'd like to see spiritual life improving. I think important aspect of that, kind of as I was saying already, is making sure people don't feel obligated to, oh, if I'm a good Christian, I'm going to go on a spring break mission trip. That's my only option. That's the only thing God would want. Because that's not. And so building those relationships, encouraging people, this is a way that God could be calling you to, but also bringing them to other connections. There was someone, because of what I've done as missions vice president, I connected someone with a potential summer internship that uses their skills in a mission organization that they got really excited about. And that was really cool to see. And I think that's something that'll build their faith. So doing things like that, that'll help people discover, what is it that they're excited about and how can God use that? How can that be, tying those things together, for me, shows me how amazing God is that he does this. There's not one set way things have to be done, and helping other people see that as well.
I think, first off, I'd just like to say that I can't make anybody grow spiritually, and we know that, but sometimes when we plan events and stuff, we think, if people come, they will grow. It will be good for them. I think primarily what I want to do is facilitate areas where people could grow, opportunities where people can grow. They asked for a slogan, and I couldn't think of one, but something that I'm very passionate is about cultivating spiritual growth and holistic development, and those should go together. We are whole people. We have so many different aspects, and all our aspects fit into this spiritual life of relationship with God and relationship with the body of Christ. And so serving in any of these missions opportunities, in Kids Club, with friends, even going to morning prayer, all of this stuff develops us as a whole person, and thus contributes to our spiritual growth. So my answer is I would continue the facilitating growth by continuing the services that are going on. But again, being very intentional in approaching people personally and talking to people about what the opportunities are and how they can be involved. And actually something just as a general for LSM, I'd love LSM to be something that the whole student body feels like they're a part of, even if they don't go to any of the services. That it can be just an extension of Laterno, kind of like athletics. I'm not on the sports team, but I feel like I can rejoice and be happy when a sports team wins because I'm part of the school that they go to.
All right, thank you both. Next up, we should have our differentiating questions. There's a word for the day. All right, Anna, take 2 minutes to explain how your platform is different from Emily.
This is very difficult. Emily and I have very similar experiences and very similar passions. I think something a little different for me is that I think international missions is very important, and I think Emily thinks that's important, but I think in developing just your understanding of people and how God sees the world, it's almost vital. And so I think that's something that everybody should participate in sometime, is traveling.
All right. Emily, do you want to respond to that specifically? You have 1 minute.
One thought I've had in thinking about the international trips, I think they are an excellent idea. I've been talking with a few students who have grown up in different places and want to take mission trips back to their homes. That's something that would be great to see here. The one thing, except for something like the Mexico City trip, which unfortunately wasn't able to happen this year or last year, taking a trip to somewhere like India or Africa would be very difficult for only a week. But doing that in May or maybe over Christmas break, something definitely would be very cool to see.
All right. Now, Emily, you have 2 minutes to explain how you're specifically different from Anna.
The most obvious part is I've already been a part of LSM, so I'm more familiar with how the process works, what it's like. I've seen, I think, a little bit more of what Matthew Staley, our current president, what his role is and what he's done. And so that's given me a window to see what are some of the things we could do to improve, like I've mentioned, the media position, making that information available to people. I know that's one thing for me coming here as a freshman is I was like, okay, what are the spring break mission trips? I couldn't find anything about it. It's there, I just couldn't find it. So putting the knowledge out there in an easily accessible place so that people know what their options are and can get involved if God's put that on their heart.
All right. And Anna, you got 1 minute to respond to that.
I don't know how LSM works completely. I met with Matt Staley and I was like, I don't know anything about this really. But I think having fresh eyes and a different mindset can be really helpful sometimes. And so I would hope that I would be able to keep the focus of LSM with some new and exciting things.
All right. Thank you both so much. All right, next up we have YAC president. While I'm introducing that, can we get that center mic moved over here? Gonna make you use your microphone, Kevin. I'm gonna do it. You will use the microphone. Alrighty. So, yeah, that's fine. All right. So Kevin is running uncontested, so this will not take as long. But we didn't want him to feel completely left out, so we wrote up a couple questions for him, and of course we'll have audience questions. So, Kevin, 1 minute, introduce yourself.
Sure, my name's Kevin Boatman. I've been a member of YAC, and first thing I want to do is just give a shout out to my YAC members that are there in the back of the room, come to support. Yeah. Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the enthusiasm.
Both of you.
So my biggest thing is I've spent a year on YAC, so I've been able to learn and see what needs to be improved and what I'll specifically be able to do to improve YAC. And other than that, I'm a CS student here.
Alrighty. Thank you for that in-depth introduction. It's good.
Oh, you're welcome.
Alrighty. So, we have a couple questions for you. There has been some debate about the replacement of Fall Fest with Spirit Week. Do you intend to revert back to Fall Fest or continue with Spirit Week? You have 2 minutes.
Sure. First off, this is my second year here at LeTourneau, so I have basically no idea what Fall Fest is. I know it's some strange event that involves like a goat, and it's really weird.
Quite ritualistic.
So, ultimately, I'm very interested in this Spirit Week idea. I think having Spirit Week is a great way to basically use YAC to bring great new experiences and entertaining things between students and athletics. It's a great way to kind of tie these two things together and to build up some hype around our awesome sports teams. So I'm very pro Spirit Week. I very much am pushing for that, and I'm actually wanting to use a lot of the input that we've got on Spirit Week to further improve that whole experience for next year.
All right, thank you. In recent years, It has become increasingly difficult to get people to attend events, even with free food offered. How do you plan to combat this?
Sure.
Let's go.
My first thing is I do not intend to ever use free food as the only way to get people to events. It's not that free food should make you want to come to an event, it's that you should be interested in the event. That being said, I am not in any way advocating for the removal of free food from any event. Essentially, what we're doing is we're starting to take steps to try to improve our social media presence. We're trying to improve promotions in general to get people to come to events. But ultimately, it lies in planning and making events that are both interesting and exciting enough to get people to come out to them. Whether that be continuing events that have a lot of hype, like obviously like Hootenanny or the dances, or trying interesting and new ways to drum up enthusiasm for newer events, such as Spirit Week.
All right. I should have 5 to 10 minutes for some audience questions. All right. You got the mic over there.
Okay, well, one thing I noticed is that yak events are often used by students as like a means of taking a break from the rigors of academic life. But also I've noticed that one of the most commonly cited reasons why people don't participate is because academic life is too rigorous. So I was wondering, how do you plan on reaching our more busy students?
So the interesting thing is, essentially, we all have homework. We're all pretty busy. Many of us are taking 15 to 18 hours. And really the thing is, the best way to get people to come to yak events is through individually, not just through promotions, but through having awesome events that your friends will tell you about and say, hey, it's worth taking a break from homework to come to this event. So really, I don't have a direct plan in place to directly reach the outliers so much as to just improve yak overall so that word of mouth gets people to come to these events.
All right. Question in the back. We'll get to you. I need more eyeballs.
Is there anything different that you are planning on doing than your predecessor, Jake?
Basically, the biggest differentiation between the two of us is I'm basically going to push for having surveys after events that are optional, like a Google survey if you're familiar with those. So that way we can get direct feedback post-event from participants. And the other thing is, Jake has had less of a huge presence within the actual executive cabinet. I mean, obviously he goes to the meeting and participates, but I actually intend to work a little bit more on the executive side and put a little bit more emphasis in that.
All right, and we had a question over here. Right down here.
Hi, so I'm a senior, so I was around to see the old Fall Fest, so if you need some information on that, you can come see me. But that's part of the question that I had, was that over the past couple of years, there seems to have been a loss of some of the older traditional events that YAC has sponsored, such as Fall Fest and Gotcha Week, which Gotcha Week has been going on since the 70s, if a lot of people didn't know that. Whereas the previous YAC had failed to hold a Gotcha Week last year, and so breaking that long tradition. So as YAC president, what are you going to do to sort of preserve the traditions that are so important to the identity of the turnout?
Ultimately, traditions are neither inherently good or bad. What I will do to preserve traditions is, because there's interest in things like, and things like the Fall Fest and everything, because there's so much interest, I will actually go back and look and learn a little bit more about what those programs were, and Gotcha Week, for example. However, I know most of the old YAC all the way from Phil Stark to Calvin and Josh, and I know that if they did change something, there was probably a good reason for it, but ultimately, I'll ask them about it too, and I'll seek out more information about previous traditions, However, I don't think something is necessarily worthwhile just on the basis of it being a tradition, to be completely honest with you.
All right. Another question toward the back. So many questions. This is good. This is good.
So, as
Wait for it. There we go.
So you said, changing traditions, and, I totally agree with that. So what are some traditions or some things that you'd like to see continue on as LeTourneau continues to change and grow with new students coming in?
Essentially, obviously my favorite tradition is Hootenanny, but that's kind of that one's kind of free. I really like the relatively new tradition we're starting of doing dances, Yak sponsored, and that's like the real biggest one that I am super enthusiastic about pushing and continuing onward. There was some scheduling conflicts, and so initially we actually weren't going to be able to do a dance, but because there was so much enthusiasm about it, myself and other members of Yak managed to actually change that, managed to make arrangements so that we could, because that's what essentially everyone we ever spoke to wanted and was most enthusiastic about.
All right. I think we have time for one or two more. Yep. You had your hand up a while back.
Do you have any ideas for new events Yak could put on?
Actually, I've been thinking about that, and I really haven't come up with anything just yet that I'm ready to unveil. My biggest thing is that I'm going to be open to suggestions from current and future Yak members after they're all hired and everything. But for me individually, I don't have anything super significant that I'm ready to present or propose to everyone tonight.
All right. I think I saw one more down in the front. Oh, you take two more. Yeah.
So there was a scheduling conflict apparently with the dance that was supposed to be this weekend. Do you have any plans to hold a dance this semester, or will this be a more yearly thing or semesterly thing?
Yeah, we're having a dance later this semester. I don't remember the exact date, just right offhand. We mentioned it at the last chapel announcements, but I'll make it a point to push for that a little bit later, because it's after Hootenanny. I do remember that. So.
All right. I saw one more in the back there.
Are there any particular events that you're wanting to do away with that we've had in the past?
Let's see. Not necessarily do away with. I feel like the way we did Hype Night and combined that with Chicken and Waffle Wednesday, I'm not a huge fan of the way that ended up playing out. Mainly, from like a few different facets. I believe that we should have promoted it a little bit harder. I believe that we shouldn't have made it appear like the exact timing of the start of the event was when we were handing out food, because I never like to give the impression that this food is a ploy to keep you at an event you would not normally stay at. I want it to be the kind of event that you would want to be at in general. But that's really the one big thing that I'm not really a fan of that we've done this year, to be completely honest.
All right. Thank you, guys. Next up, we have a very special question just for you. A technical question for Yak. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hype are you for Yak? And we have a handy-dandy reference chart right here. That's all Bergman right there. Well, personally, I hope it's above ETPU.
Well, normally I live life at about a 3 out of 10, to be honest. Anything more than that can get dangerous, but this is Yak. This isn't my life. This is so much bigger. This is the entire student body. So I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm pretty hype.
All right, that's great. Thank you, guys. All right, next up is Student Body Treasurer. We have two contestants here, Caleb Frere and Michael Butz. Round of applause for them both. These guys have both campaigned very aggressively, so I'm very excited to see this. All right, we'll begin with 1 minute introductory statements. Mr. Butts, you are first.
Hello, many of you know me. My name is Michael Butts. I'm an accounting major here in my second year. I am currently serving in Senate as the spending oversight officer for Senate, so I'm keeping their budget, and I'm also the chairman for the Financial Appropriations Committee. In that position, we just recently drafted a bill that will be getting voted on this week in the Senate to fund clubs, which is something that we do every semester, and that is up on the wiki for you to review. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have.
All right.
If I
Mr.
can just
Traer.
add to that, I want to recognize, and I hope everyone else here will recognize with me, Michael's service in our military for America. So, so I'm thrilled to see a lot of people that I know here tonight, and I know many of you represent those who are very interested in our executive cabinet and what's done here at LeTourneau. So thank you for coming out. My name is Caleb Traer. I'm a senior business management and graduate student here with LeTourneau. I'm due enrolling at the moment. What I will represent here as the treasurer is three separate things in my slogan is definitely going to be value. I want to be able to speak value to the money that each and every one of you is investing for our budgets that we have here. Involvement, I want to be expanding the role of the treasurer and allow that to be far more visible and have a lot more communication with those on campus so you can see what is happening. And for the vision, I want to be able to speak to the 20% of the executive cabinet voice the treasurer does have for all of this and be able to appropriate the money wisely to continue.
That's your time. Okay, and I will have to stick to this. Oh, to insult people. Cool. Okay, so we will have a question for Mr. Traer first, and then Mr. Bush will get a chance to respond. All right. The treasurer works with executive cabinet, Senate, and student life to manage student government's accounts. Beyond this, the role is largely undefined. What is the extent of the treasurer's authority and influence?
The true question here is, what is the extent of any leader? I can't go and enforce any of these positions or any of the actual mandates here. I'm not going to go out with a baton and beat people over the head when they're not doing exactly what it is that I've said. But as I stated beforehand, this position is underutilized at the moment in my position of what I see it to be able to do. It does represent 20% of the voice on the executive cabinet, and it also represents your voice as well, making myself more available and the position more visible through talks and hopefully concerned information videos so that you guys can know what's actually happening instead of just having a wiki link where you have to go through 3 different links to find exactly what it is you're searching for, which, as we've already said before, many of us are overcommitted, don't have time to search for. So I want to be able to bring that information and communicate it well to you. And hopefully, in conjunction with student government and Senate and many of these other positions on the executive cabinet, work in conjunction with their treasurers to look at their budgets and use your money as wisely as possible.
All right, Mr. Butts, you have 2 minutes to respond to that.
The question at the end of it, it asked what is the authority and influence of the position of student body treasurer. And coming from the accounting perspective, the treasurer oversees the student accounts, is in many ways the banker for the student accounts. And in the past, there has not been a lot of interaction between the student body treasurer and the clubs, or the student body treasurer and the person in Senate managing funds, which currently is the spending oversight officer, which is a new position, or as far as I know, the LSM or YAC treasurers. I see the position of the treasurer as being a very good position to bring them together, all of the spending oversight officer, the YAC treasurer, and the LSM treasurer, to work together with their accounts to have a standardized system across all of them and to help each other keep track of their funds and get that reported to the student body.
All right. The next question will begin with you, Mr. Boots, and then you'll have a chance to respond. It is no secret that the university's financial system is somewhat convoluted. Those of you who work in student government know that. What is your plan to streamline and enhance the accounting process for student government?
Okay, there's a couple of questions in there. The first is dealing with the accounting system and how it's convoluted. There's a lot of confusion. And I recently was talking with our current student body treasurer, Jeremy Gosen, about this. And I will currently, there's been a lot of confusion of like exactly when do clubs get their money, because last semester we were being told 8 to 12 weeks after Senate passed the budget, the bill to fund clubs, that the clubs would get their money. And so it's a question of, is this a reporting delay or what? And with my talking to Jeremy Gosen, it appears that it is getting transferred over quickly, but I would want to talk to the accounting department to find out exactly how does the accounting system work so that I can have the most correct information to give to Senate and to the student body about how that works. On that line, I will also be taking tax accounting in the fall, which Dr. Rowe, our accounting professor, has gotten a lady from the accounting department to agree to teach. So I will already have her available and will be building a personal relationship with her through that class and have that opportunity to talk with her on a regular basis to make sure I understand what's going on. As for streamlining and enhancing the accounting process for student government, with Senate as student officer, I have created a system where you can go to the wiki and you can see, as live as my records are, at least for last semester, I'm still working on the one for this semester, how money has been allocated by Senate and how it has been spent. As student body treasurer, I would work to apply that across time and LSM as well.
All right, Mr. Traer, 2 minutes to respond. You can use your 2 minutes however you would like.
So that question there was talking about how muddy the waters are right now with our accounting system, where everything is going. Like I said before, I'd like to communicate to the student body what it is that you guys are caring about most. But I interviewed Jeremy, our current treasurer, and I asked him what his position was and how he saw his role in working. He told me that 50% of his job was event planning. It's not accounting, and I talked to Miss Wanda, who is actually the person who's in control of most of the transactions after it comes through. The position of treasurer is record keeping, which can be done on an Excel spreadsheet and done quite simply. It takes about 2 weeks to learn. So with that being said, the actual position here that we're looking at is someone who is a project manager and someone who is able to identify the value of the students on campus and be able to allocate that money wisely. In addition to that, having that voice and making sure that this information that you value is apparent and I'm available so that you can ask me questions is something that I would strive to do in that position. As far as the rest of treasurer, it's a leadership position that I would be excited to take a role in. I'm a business student, so I get excited about weird things. It's bad. My roommate a year ago had a financial analysis of companies and accounting systems book sitting on his desk for a 5-week course. Hadn't opened it yet. I glanced over and saw it, and I just got so giddy. I mean, I was like a 6th grade girl. It was crazy. I asked him, can I have that book when you're done? He's like, go for it. Knock yourself out. It was wonderful. And with that being said, I would look forward to being in the position of treasurer and managing those projects and getting you that information where I see the value of this.
All right, that's time. Okay, we should have about 10 minutes for audience questions now. Does anyone want to start us out? Oh, got a few over there. We'll start all the way on the left. Making people exercise today.
Gentlemen, I have a question for Mr. Traeger. Mr. Butz did list a couple of things that he has as experience in finance. What can you bring to the table and as experience?
Nice shirt, by the way.
Thank you. Nice try.
The experience that he has at the moment is exactly what I have, the required accounting classes for general business. Now, with that being said, I've already done financial analysis, and I'm already going to be working, next semester, I'll be working in the master's level class of financial analysis where accounting, statistics, and finance comes together to be at a cornerstone level, capstone level, forgive me. When it comes to that, what we're looking at here is keeping track of the numbers, which is quite simple to do, but making decisions. When it comes to that, you're looking for someone who understands the value of your guys' money and be able to place that as well as possible in those projects. Part of that is the executive cabinet, which receives 5% of the entire budget. And that's something that I would be in charge of, to actually allocate that money for the events, again, that would be planned by the executive cabinet. Does that answer your question?
All right, next question. Yeah. I know a lot of you have hands up. Yep, let's start there.
So obviously, as student body president, I have a little bit of experience with all of this. I feel like we may have gone a little beyond the reaches in saying that this position is as big as it is, but I do have a very specific question. Actually, two. I've got two, I guess, occasions where the treasurer would have a say, and I want your guys' input. So the first one is, say that the student body president wanted a specific bespoke suit and or vest that designated them as the student body president. Would that be a financial decision that either of you would choose to go along with for executive cabinet?
We've been over this, Marcus.
No. Very valid question.
If I can make a recommendation, a GoFundMe page. But I am in support of vests.
That is for both of you.
I doubt that you could make any sort of strong argument as to why that is a wise use of money when things like that especially are tailored for a specific person. So
I got that. I don't think the student body is a vested.
So obviously that was a more hypothetical question. This is actually a more real question. Obviously, the student body treasurer's purpose is to make sure that the value is the most for whatever events or things are spent by executive cabinet. That requires a lot of researching and doing comparison cost analysis on different decisions made. For instance, if we bring a food truck on campus or something along those lines, tell me about your experience and how well you find basically your skills in doing that.
Well, I am an accounting student, so all three of my on-campus classes this semester are with Dr. Rowe, our accounting professor. So I already have a very good, very close relationship with her. I recently took managerial accounting this past fall, and it goes into some of how to do those sorts of financial analyses. But I would also approach her to work with her to make sure that I am doing it to the best that I can, that I'm not just trying to remember what I learned, but I am in fact doing it in the most correct way to get the most correct answer.
Mr. Sharp?
First off, I'm pretty sure we can't get a food truck on campus. I've tried that before.
Except for we can.
And we can?
Yeah, I will interject that.
6:30.
Absolutely. Well, to answer your question, when it comes down to those types of projects, you asked for what experience I have in that. I'm currently the project manager of Hootenanny. I'm also the financial manager and lead on our international festival that we had this year. Hootenanny, I think it looks like about $500 I'll get to manage, and the international festival we're looking at $1,500 to $2,000, depending on which direction we choose with that. Other things that I've been able to do for managing those events and finding out those costs is I've been able to extensively contact people who are on campus and outside of campus for supportive funds, as well as finding different props and things that we needed, especially for the game show that took place in this room last semester. If you don't know Jack, I was in charge of that for quite a while, and we were able to break that up and manage that project very well. Like I said, again, a lot of this isn't necessarily counting the numbers, it's finding the resources, and I've had considerable experience, especially with my management background.
All right. Small shameless plug for tomorrow's event. We will have a taco truck on campus, 6:30 to 7:30 in the ASC turnaround. I know, that's what it's like. And the best part is they are free to students. So just bring your student ID and we can get a free taco tomorrow night. That's in support of our basketball team for the ASC conference tournament. So, all right, back to Earth. Question right there, or Mike Renners. We've gone negative, Mike. Mike, where's Mike? Who's Mike?
I'm right over here.
All right, thank you.
Yes, this question is for both of you. With your knowledge of the Treasury and all, and how you see the Treasury being used currently, what is your vision for where you want the Treasury Department to be, and what is your plan of achieving said vision?
Are you talking about long-term end balance of the Treasury?
I'm talking about where do you see the school right now, and where do you want the school in terms of the funds that you will be in charge of to be, and how you're going to do so in a both ethical and moral way.
Okay. You each have 1 minute apiece on this one.
When it comes to a lot of these decisions, we have already made the choice to dedicate a considerable amount of the funds to LSM, to YAC, to our clubs that are on campus here. I think what's happening when we're talking about where we want the treasurer's position to be, I want it to be more visible. I want it to be more involved with the treasurers of LSM and YAC. And I want it to be more communicative to the student populace. When it comes to funding, you'll have to go to student retention to find out about that. Does that answer your question?
Currently, the accounting systems within student government, and so therefore, by extension, the Treasury, don't have very good records. And those records are not very accessible. When I became the spending oversight officer in the fall, Senate had almost no records as to how money was allocated or spent last year, and I was running around for about 2 or 3 months just trying to find out how much money we started with at the beginning of the semester before we got the general fee for the semester. As student body treasurer, one of the things that I'm wanting to do is standardize the system of records across all of the branches of student government. Another thing that I'm wanting to do is maintain accountability by having a good audit trail, good detailed records that are being kept of how money is being spent, when it's being spent, what exactly it's being spent on, preferably with photos of receipts and such. One of the things that I'm wanting to do, and I've talked to Dr. Ruhl about this as well, is when there is an audit class being taught, opening up the student government books to the auditing class to come in and audit to make sure that we are, in fact, keeping our receipts and we're identifying exactly how money was spent so that there's not confusion about exactly how much money did Senate spend on ice cream last year versus this year. Why is it apparently looking like it's going to end up being $2,000 different? And so creating and working together across the different branches to create an accounting system that is the same across all of them, that is reported similarly to how we're currently reporting Senate, I think is an important thing to do to get the Treasury in order, because right now it's a little ramshackle.
All right, we have time for one more question. And everybody's hand goes up. One over here. Yeah, that's yeah. I know, I'm so sorry. I can only one winner tonight.
So I had a question for Mr. Butz. We've heard from the other candidate several times about how he has organized a couple events, namely Houdini, that were a few $1,000s, mainly centralized around that one event. Could you give us more information about how you helped allocate that $10,000 across the many clubs that came and all had conflicting, or not necessarily conflicting, but competing goals, and the bill that will come up for vote, I believe, tomorrow or the session after?
We got about 1 minute, and then we got our time for this.
Yes, Senate has $10,000 that we allocate to various clubs across campus. Any club that asks for money that has been recognized by Student Life is eligible to receive funds. This is something that we do on a semesterly basis, and we do preferably as quickly as we can so that we can get the money to the clubs as quickly as possible. We being the Financial Appropriations Committee within the Senate, or FAC, about a week and a half ago, had presentations from all of the different clubs that were requesting. It ended up being about $400 or more. There were a couple that were requesting a little bit less than that. They gave presentations. And we ended up having about $17,000 or $18,000 requested, and only $10,000 we could give. And so we received the presentations, we talked amongst each other and ourselves about how to allocate that. And one new club that is starting up is the men's volleyball team. They requested, I believe, $900, and we ended up being able to give them $850 because by the time we got to, I think originally we were looking at giving them about $700, but by the time we got to allocating money to clubs according to what seems to be good stewardship of the funds, we had some extra money that hadn't been allocated yet, and since that is a new club that is looking to be on par with the rugby club, we were able to give them additional funds because it is such an important event.
All right, and we're running out of time for that. Okay, thank you guys. Again, I hate to cut people off, but we don't want to be here until 5 a.m. Well, some of us do. All right, so we will start with you, Mr. Trayer, for your differentiating question. I feel like I need one of those double Jeopardy things. All right, so how is your platform different from Michael's? 2 minutes.
I see Michael's as very much looking at some of the analytics, which is definitely something that I'm already capable of doing and definitely have the academic background for. When it comes to the differentiation, I want to be specifically making an effort to be pushing this position to have media outlets to be able to speak to each and every one of you, because I feel that communication is absolutely valuable. I've had considerable experience in doing many other projects, not just singularly Hootenanny. This semester alone, I'm operating 2 other budgets of around $3,000 or $4,000 this semester alone. This is my 3rd year here. I've done something around that cash-wise every semester. So the differentiation is come from experience with those projects management, which, as we stated before, at least half of the job is that, in making those decisions. And making sure that the true vision of LeTourneau is set forth and the value that you guys hold is seen.
All right, Mr. Butz, your response to that, 1 minute.
Mr. Trayer seems to believe, and I certainly inferred from what he said, that he believes that analytics are easy and therefore relatively unimportant. You said you were capable. Perhaps my inference was incorrect. I'm going to be taking, as long as the class schedule remains the same as it was in the fall when I had my advising, I will be taking nonprofit accounting in the fall, and will be able to, student government accounting is nonprofit accounting, and I will be able to apply that across the board to student government to get us as close to generally accepted accounting principles as possible. And the communication of information is also very important to me. But I see the accuracy of the books as being.
That's 1 minute there, but you can keep going because now you're going to explain how you're different from Kim.
And continuing on into how my platform is different, his platform had 3 main points of value, involvement, and vision. My platform has 2 primary categories of accountability and stewardship. Within accountability, the standardization of the systems of records and among the different branches of government, openness to auditing by the accounting part of the School of Business, accuracy within the records, because that is something that we have seen grossly lacking in the past, and job responsibilities, because currently the student body treasurer doesn't really have a well-defined role, and so I want to, from within the position, from the perspective of an accountant, help draft documents that help guide and govern the position for future treasurers as well as myself. And in stewardship, communication with clarifying the accounting system, talking with them, cooperation among the various stewards, if you will, of student government money, and accessibility to our records through the wiki in embedded documents so that you can see as real time as our records are how money has been spent and allocated.
All right, Mr. Traer, your response. 1 minute.
So from your vision statement, I'm pretty sure the words accountability and stewardship are almost synonyms. But regardless, the position that he's talking about, especially when it comes down to it, a question that I would ask to you if you were looking at a future treasurer, would you require a third-year accounting student to hold the position? Jeremy was an electrical engineer. He took up this position. This is where we look to the Bible and we see that truly it's the small things when we're working in life that we're taking responsibility for so that we can continue to build and take up greater responsibilities. When we're looking at this differentiation that you've made, I see the treasurer's position as, yes, being able to be defined, but I don't see it as someone who should be sitting down for this CPA exam. And again, I would mention that a considerable amount of the work that's done on the accounting side of the receipts is done by Ms. Wanda.
All right, that concludes our treasurer debate. Thank you very much. All right, next up we have the student body vice president. However, I see that many of you have discovered the pizza in the back. The pizza is here, so correct, elections people? All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and break now, and then we'll go ahead and do everything else after the break. So about 10-15 minutes, and we'll get going again. All right, thank you guys. Elections committee, up here, please. Thank you. To our live stream viewers, looks like we had about 20 of you, about 10 right now. A couple shout outs I noticed in the comments. Jonathan Vanderwill, hello. Wherever you are, doing good things. We remember you. And again, hi Mom. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started here. You guys can grab a couple more slices of pizza as we're going, but keep it pretty quiet and we'll keep moving. All right. We were at Student Body Vice President. For that position, we have Justin Largent. He's uncontested, and let's go ahead and give him a warm welcome. All right. 1 minute introduction. Make it work.
I'm Justin Largent, also known as Hambone, 141. I'm a junior computer science and mathematics major. I've been in Senate for 2 years. First year, I served as the Public Records Committee Chair. So I dealt with all the public records that student government has and just displaying them correctly through social media or main public record service, the Wiki. This year, I am the President Pro Tempore of Senate. I oversee all of the committees and function. If Senate was a company, I would be the COO, and Owen would be the CEO as Vice President. So I'm running for Vice President, kind of move up to the next position.
Alrighty, thank you. We have a couple scripted questions for you. Despite significant efforts, Senate has seemingly failed to interest the student body in attending their sessions. For example, exactly one non-student government visitor, attended the highly publicized visit by Dr. Lunsford a couple weeks ago. How do you plan to successfully disseminate the information that Senate is given? About 2 minutes.
I plan to do that through the individual senators. I think it's their responsibility to disseminate information to their floors. So all I can do really to push that is to encourage them to do so, as their role is to give you information if you're on their floors. As far as inviting people to session, it's hard to make people do things. It's voluntary. It's come up multiple times with the YAC events, so it's definitely a problem. But I think the best way to go about that is for have the senators discussing information with their floors.
All right, thank you. What is the biggest mistake VP Who wrote this? Oh, I did. Okay. Anyway, must have been very late. All right. What is the biggest mistake VP Good has made during his term, and what would you have done differently?
Well, I'd say the biggest mistake VP Good has made is constantly referring to himself as the Senate.
It looks like we're out of time.
Which is a direct allusion to Chancellor Palpatine in Star Wars Episode 3. But I would say, in response to that, what I've done differently, you were my brother, Anakin. I'm
All right. That accomplished a lot. So, we should have 5 to 10 minutes of audience questions, hopefully somewhat more relevant of, do not give that man a microphone. All right, one from Marcus over here.
This is a very important question. How much do you squat?
I actually don't squat barbell squats because I've got kind of a bad back and my knees aren't that good either. So I take it light on the squats. Not a big fan of leg day because of the soreness, but I still power through.
Do you even lift?
I do in fact lift.
Okay, that's good, because I don't.
We can tell.
Another one right over on that
candidates have been saying this right yet. But,
Mic's not working.
Project.
I know a lot of the candidates haven't been given this, but I know all the candidates were supposed to come up with a campaign slogan. I want to know if you had one.
I do have a campaign slogan. I think that'd be best revealed at chapel on Monday. But if there's enough want to hear that now, I can reveal it.
I'm sure he'll get that figured out by Monday. Next question, right there.
When you were talking about attending Senate sessions, right now Senate meets at 11 a.m. on Thursdays, which is the same time as science seminars, which a lot of people are in science classes, and that's extra credit in those classes. Is there any thoughts on that to boost Senate attendance with that conflict?
Yes, I'm aware of that conflict. Having been in Senate the past 2 years and not being able to get the extra credit from science seminars when in physics, usually those professors work with writing papers if you do them online, so you'd able, perhaps maybe if you wanted to go to vote, do that. There's not a whole lot of times that don't involve conflicts. On Tuesdays at 11 is when the PAs have their weekly meetings, and several things happen during those lunch times that aren't class related. So any time I think would have conflicts.
Man, it is hard not to answer these questions myself. That is unfortunately true. We've looked at that for many years now, and it just always comes back to Thursdays at 11. One from another candidate back there.
So you've been serving in Senate, like you said, for a couple of years. What are some difficulties in the operation of Senate that you have seen and witnessed personally, and how would you address those to change them and improve them going forward?
I've seen a problem with committees interacting with each other, and as PPT, that was one of my goals, to increase communication with that, and I think I've done so, not to the fullest extent that I wanted, but committees are definitely interacting with each other more. Things pushed back and forth to committee before coming to session. That's done a lot through people being in multiple committees, in that avenue of communication between those two. Another operational thing is people just not coming to session anymore. So senators just, instead of resigning, just not coming to session, and then you kind of on the fence. Well, I don't really want to remove them because I want people to be representing their floors, but if they're not coming, they're not representing the floors. That's one of the things that PPT have had to deal with. Does that answer your question? Was there? I think there was more, wasn't it?
I was thinking more specifically along the lines of like when we've had some of the recent votes and that were highly inflammatory. Security how would you address instances like that so that we don't have those problems showing up again in the future? And what are some similar issues to that for how the actual sessions run where there have been hiccups and potholes that have just kind of been muscled through in the past, and how would you try to, using the pothole analogy, fill those potholes so that Senate could run more smoothly with less drama?
With the security camera resolution, there was some debate about, or not debate, but knowledge that was missing about whether or not it was a 2/3 vote or a majority vote, and that definitely was on the VP, not to put Owen on the bus, but
no,
to know that that vote was coming up and have that ready for when the vote did happen, to know what the numbers were. So just being prepared for the session, and then some, like, people have their bad days. Not saying that Owen had a bad day that time, but that was definitely one of the problems with that. I think we did it well with the roll call vote, which also hadn't been done in the past, as far as we can tell. That definitely show transparency to people's floors on what each senator voted.
That's absolutely true, and that was completely on me in that situation. So I'm grateful for the assistance that the senators provided.
I actually have two questions. So the first one is, are you planning on continuing the gavel legacy within the Senate?
I am not a big fan of the gavel. I've made that clear in session.
Well, this is over.
Sorry, I'm changing my vote.
If necessary, I could probably do that.
Good to know. Also, how are you planning on changing Senate and moving it forward?
I don't really have any changes in mind, but I do plan on keeping the inviting faculty members and administration to come to session, hear them talk about the university, and then have that as a ways to convey information to the students.
All right. Yes, I'll let you ask a question, but I'm watching.
What happened to the other person running for VP?
That's not the question I was expecting. That's good.
On Saturday, I received an email that he was removing himself from the election. That's all I feel like I'm inclined to, or have at liberty to say.
That is accurate. It was voluntary on his part. Okay. We really are out of time. We have time for one more question. All right, Marcus, your hand was the highest out of all those. I have to decide somehow. Oh, really? Okay, never mind then. Raise them again. All of them.
I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this question, but as someone who is currently on a floor that's unrepresented, and having been in Senate previously and been a senator, I am aware that senators are a part of the floor leadership, and that seems to have greatly been lacking the past couple of years, is that senators aren't a part of that. Is there any steps being taken to have senators be more part of the floor leadership, that stuff can get out to our, people on the floor?
That's kind of what we've been pushing for senators to be, kind of just to put themselves in that situation. I believe that would also involve RAs to get behind that, to add them back. From what I can tell is that used to be the case, that part of floor leadership included the chaplains, RAs, and the senators, and it's kind of stepped back where just the RAs leader and the chaplains and senators are kind of like behind them. On 41, the RRAs have definitely made us part of the leadership. It's been really good.
So are you planning on pushing for that on other floors, including floors that are currently unrepresented? How are you planning on making sure that they either get represented by other floors or other senators? How do you plan on combating that issue?
The elections committee does multiple elections every year. If there's vacancies, that they continue to put up sheets to have senators join. As far as you had two questions in that one.
Kind of, sorry.
Can you state those again?
So I'm on a floor that's unrepresented and that no one ran for because there's nobody on my floor that's interested. How do I get information from senators, especially when there are other floors that have multiple people that want to be senators on it, I guess is the clarification of that question.
Okay. With Gilbert, there's been some talk about maybe realigning all of Gilbert to be like one representative entity.
I have a plan.
Personally, I think that falls to other senators in the dorm. So if T3 or T1 didn't have senators, I feel like that fell on 41 senators to represent them. I can't speak more about other dorms because I've never lived in one besides 41 and Thomas. So yeah.
All right. I would like to keep going. This is like my favorite subject for those of you who know me. But in the interest of, well, everyone else, we should probably keep going. And it's good that we do, because I was on the internet the other day, scrolling through some social media feeds. And I ran into this. What is this?
Read it.
Justin Largent. This is on the 24th of December, 2014. That's just 3 years ago. Can you believe that? I have had a hard time adjusting to this, and this is, God, man. Awful internet here at LeTourneau. Can you believe that? And this man thinks he's qualified to run for executive cabinet. Do you have a response to this?
If you look at the date there on that tweet, 12/24/14, that took place when I was at my house during winter break. And my house during winter break at that time had 3 megs down at very much this awful internet.
Well, you could have clarified that by adding punctuation here, but you chose not to.
Yes, it's very common in Twitter to drop punctuation because of the character limit.
That's why Twitter's stupid.
As far as Mr. Moderator, I do have a question for you about your ability to moderate successfully.
Oh, he's firing back. Shields up.
In May 11th, 2014, you posted on Facebook, "My mama is cooler than you, mama."
I was stating a fact.
Alternative facts.
Wrong. Hit me with your best shot.
For most reasons, I was actually working on IT at the time, and the internet here is very good in comparison to what other internets are. If you ever had consolidated communications, you know that they're awful.
So, all right. Satire aside, it is now time for the intermission that we already had. Thank you very much, and welcome back to the second intermission. Okay, it is time for the main event, our 5-way steel cage match. Unfortunately, the steel cage is still in order. You wouldn't believe the shipping prices on these things on Amazon. Like the Chinese guy I talked to said it for being
He's a flight
All
man.
right, so the way this is going to work, similar debate format, but slightly different. Each candidate, since we have 5 candidates, each candidate will have a 1-minute intro statement. Then they will have a specific question for them. I have done some legitimate digging. And then the other candidates will have 2 minutes to cross-examine. All right, and the way we're going to do this, since we have a limited amount of mics, where are my mic runners? You guys still have microphones? So can you guys come sit kind of up the front with the wireless mics? And after a candidate's moderator question, the first one of you guys to respond gets to respond to that candidate. Does that make sense? You tracking with me? John has a face that looks like... I feel like we're not communicating, John. All right, we're good? Okay, good. And, all right, after that, we should have time for audience questions. As in previous rounds, those can be directed toward preferably specific candidates, because if you ask every candidate to answer the same question, it's going to be like 5 minutes on one question. So please direct those to maybe 1 or 2 candidates max, and then they'll have a chance for closing statement. So without further ado, we'll move into our introductory statements. These are all done alphabetically. That is how I came up with the order for the debate, by the way. This is rigged. No, it's all alphabetical by last name and then alternating speaking orders. So great care was taken to remain as unbiased as possible in this entire thing. So, all right. I heard that. John, you've got 1 minute.
Is this on?
This is on. Yeah.
I'm John. I'm a junior bio major from Buffalo, New York, and I've been an RA for the last 2 years in Davis. And one of the things that I'm excited about in this process for running is getting to know students better, and that's something that the last couple of years I've been able to do on my floor. And seeing students grow and seeing the way that they're able to invest in specific communities is something that I'm passionate about. So I'm interested as student body president, or as possibly being student body president, to continue that on a larger scale.
All right, and can we actually get that wireless mic up here? I think that's going to work a little bit better for us. All right. Robert Farrell, you have 1 minute.
Hi, I'm Robert Farrell. I am a junior, double majoring in computer science and engineering and computer science with a network security concentration. I have been a member of Senate for this school year, and I'm interested in the position of student body president because I would like to see what I can further do for student government and fix some of the things that I have seen that it might possibly be able to do better.
All right.
So thanks guys for coming out tonight. It shows that you guys really care about how the university works, and I really appreciate that. I'm Chris Martin, and I've served as the Public Records Committee Chair in Senate for the past year. I think I'm the most suited for this position because I've worked on large, long-scale projects like the yearbook for a long time, and student government really is a long-term improvement project. And through those projects, I've been able to build relationships with people, both students and faculty, and people are really what make this university happen. And I'm going to spend a month in Longview with my aviation summer school after graduation, and I think that time's really critical to build relationships and have a strong transition to have a great executive cabinet. Thanks.
All right, and Marcus Miller. Return to your seat, sir. Sir.
Sir, do I have to sit down?
Yes, in fairness, please do sit down.
Everyone else can sit up.
Well, for the intro statement, sit down. We'll see what happens after that.
Shut down. It's all right.
Thank you for your enthusiasm.
That's fine. Tables don't define me,
All right. 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Marcus Miller, and I am a junior senior transfer thing, aviation management and air traffic control student here. Many of you know me from a little thing we do here called Hootenanny, which I've been privileged and honored to be the host of for the past 2 years, and again for this year. So I hope I see you all there March 31st. It's going to be awesome. That's going to be the best Hootenanny we've ever created. And at the end of the night, whenever you go back to your dorm, whenever you're talking to everybody, you're going to ask yourselves a bunch of questions. But Student Senate, student government, is here for you. So what do you want? What do you want to get out of this? And so I'm going to ask you this question, and I want you to think about it the rest of the night. If I could change one thing, and if this person could change one thing, what would it be?
All right, that's time on you. And Josh Reyes. That didn't take long.
Hey guys, my name is Josh Reyes, as Owen said so graciously. I am a sophomore kinesiology exercise science student. Yeah, thrilling. I am from West Texas, God's country, a little town called Midland, where it's the #2 oil capital of the world. You can look that up. It'll say it on a Wikipedia page somewhere. Ultimately, y'all, if there's one thing y'all take away from the night, I just want you to be encouraged by the wonderful guys that are up here showing how much they actively love you and care for you and personally want to invest in you and for you to have just a better experience, a better life at LeTourneau that is more focused on the gospel and seeking to fulfill the Great Commission than prioritizing anything else, because ultimately that's what matters. That's why we're here. It's not about school. It's not about anything else. It's about fulfilling the Great Commission and being believers, being the body of Christ.
All right, thank you. All right. Well, I do appreciate the support. Let's refrain from clapping until the end of the section, please. All right. Next up, we'll have our specific questions. Can we have that mic back this way, please? All right. John, you have 2 minutes for this question. In your interview, you claimed a laid-back leadership style with a focus on delegation. Combined with your more reserved personality, why are you the best fit for this position? In 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question.
Thanks.
I think, yeah, just in my experience in leadership, and and the way that I have done leadership in the past. I'm definitely more of a laid-back person. I'm not someone that's necessarily like a hype man. I know Kevin was talking about that earlier. I think, just from a leadership perspective, having more of a laid-back personality like mine allows me to listen to other people. I really enjoy listening to people. I'm not necessarily much of a talking person. I really enjoy just kind of hearing what other people have to say. And I think that makes me a good fit for this position because it is a position of humility and of listening and being able to understand where people are coming from. And so that's what I'm passionate about, and I think that's what makes me qualified, I guess, for this position.
All right, requests for cross-examination from the other candidates. So we'll do 2 of you, and then you'll each have 1 minute to speak. Who wants to go first? This is a debate, come on. Don't make me nominate you. All right.
So the student body president is kind of the face that the public sees and the face that the Board of Governors sees. And so as a more like laid back and more of a person who listens to a bunch of things, whenever it comes time to actually make decisions and make those choices that people have told you about, to the Board of Governors, to Dr. Lunsford, in front of all the people that can actually make things happen, would you be able to do that?
All right, and 1 more. Yes, you can go ahead and respond to that.
Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, and let's get that second mic up here for this table so we don't have to shuffle.
I think having a laid-back kind of listening style lets me hear what other people are saying, and I think when it comes to making recommendations and making decisions in that sense, I think having the responsibility and having the title of student body president does allow for some of to be able to talk to the Board of Governors and to be able to have an opportunity to say something to them. And I think there is an opportunity and there's a way to communicate with them, and that's something that I feel I can step into by having more of a background of what's going on and what people are thinking about.
All right, thank you.
Does that answer it, Marcus?
All right. Mr. Martin, 1 minute.
So, John, you've been an RA at Davis for 2 years, and I'm part of the Honors College too. And it's pretty well known that some of us keep to ourselves a lot more within the Honors College. What kind of opportunities are you going to build to get to know the student body better so you can represent them better?
Yeah, I think some of the things that Marcus has been doing this year with morning prayer, and then also with the 11:11 coffee or the 4 p.m. coffee. I think those are really good opportunities. Being an RA allows me to connect with other RAs in other buildings, and so having some of those relationships kind of in different buildings, I think will help me be able to have a wider perspective on the student.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to Mr. Farrell. Your specific question. Compared to your opponents, you possess a significantly smaller amount of leadership experience. Are you qualified to be student body president? In 2 minutes.
I would say that I probably am. I can't say for sure because I haven't actually been in a lot of leadership, but what I do have is I have a perspective from inside of Senate, and I have a lot of perspectives from being other roles in the university because I've worked for facilities, I've worked in ASC, so I've seen the inside of campus. I've seen both engineering and computer science, and then I'm getting a management minor, so I've seen the business school as well. So I would say what qualifies me most for this position is the perspective that I have.
All right. Questions for Mr. Farrell? Not all at once.
Can you define probably?
I am qualified.
So noted. One more question.
So you know a lot of perspectives. What are your plans to, if you see any problems with it or points of improvement, what are plans to improve those or get rid of the problems?
One of the problems that I've seen is that facilities, they want to do things to serve the student body better, but they don't get a lot of feedback directly to them. So opening more communication to them would be one example of the thing that I could do to fix the problem.
All right. And we'll go on to your specific question, Chris.
Oh, I have a clicker that I didn't use properly.
I'm kind of amazed I made it to like slide 47 before I did that, so personal best. Cool. Anyway. All right, Chris. One of your main goals is to increase the availability of records to the public. However, there has been seemingly little interest in the records that have been recently made available online. Is this something that students really want?
My campaign slogan is knowledge is power. And I think that a lot of people don't know the kind of power that they have in executive cabinet because they don't know what on earth executive cabinet does. And I'm not going to say that I'm going to be the change and in one semester everyone's going to know what executive cabinet does and have an interest in what executive cabinet does and by extension what kind of power the student body has. But I hope to implement a culture of having those records available and having less effort to go look for them. So for example, right now I'd have to contact Marcus about a specific issue that I have. Smith, yeah. And he's great at replying to emails and text messages, but sometimes turnaround for emails and text messages is too long. And if you're enabled and empowered to look for the records yourself, the whole student body would be empowered.
All right. Questions for Mr. Martin? Let's try to branch this out, okay? This is good, but let's try to branch this out. Okay? Get on. Go get it. Yeah, you're fine, but keep going. Proceed. Okay.
So you say having access to the records empowers the student body. How?
I like these nice and quick questions. I don't have to worry about time limits at all. It's great.
Sure. I've been reading a book by Andy Crouch called Playing God. It's about a Christian perspective on power and how in Christianity we're supposed to enable others to have their power multiplied. It's not that if I get power, you lose power. It's by you gaining power, we all gain power together. And, sorry, could you repeat the question?
How would having access to records empower the students?
Right. That's really vague. Because
that's what you said.
It is what I said. But I did clarify that with if people know what happens. Then, for example, I have 3 main goals: transparency, integration, and longevity. So Senate's been doing a great job with building guides for officers. Like, this is what the secretary does. This is what the PPT does. If people know what everyone's role is,
Does the average student care what the PPT does?
you know, I don't think so. And I'm not going to say that I'm the one that can change that in one semester.
Does it have to change?
Yes, because people have power in student government. This is good.
But if nobody cares about the change, which is what you just said, then why should it change? Wait.
All right. Next question there. So, someone other than you guys.
Are the additional responsibilities of being student body president worth having to be able to make these changes when you are already the chair of the Public Records Committee in Senate, where you have control of the Senate Wiki and pretty much can do what you want with records there?
Thanks for that question. It's something I've been thinking about too. And I said integration earlier. As executive cabinet, we could change the Senate Wiki into a student government wiki. Right now, everyone can access Senate's records, but no one can really access executive cabinet's records. If we make it an overall student government thing, then they'd be, you guys and us, we'd be able to see what executive cabinet does.
You know how many hits the wikis get on a week-to-week basis?
We get 500 hits every week.
500 hits. Is that mainly senators, or is it?
We don't have Google Analytics, so we don't know.
All right, thank you both. That was lively. That's good. That's what's supposed to be happening. This is good. It's good. Everybody's getting warmed up. The gloves are coming off. Excellent. All right. Well, Mr. Miller, it's your turn. You are one of the busiest people on campus without being student body president. Additionally, your campaign promises on your Facebook page, for example, are vast and seem to test the limits of feasibility. Will you really be able to do all that you say you're going to do? 2 minutes.
I'm glad you asked that, Owen. It's a great question.
They were designed to be
great questions.
Good questions. All right, carry on. You got 2 minutes.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. As far as aviation is one of next to engineering and a few other majors. It's one of the busiest majors that we have here. But the cool part about the air traffic control kind of attachment to aviation management is I've already done all those classes. So now I'm just doing my management classes, which are online classes, which are very, very easy, and I can go with them at my own time. And so as far as being available and doing things, I would be available, and I would be able to accomplish a large majority, if not all of the things that I put on my Facebook. Which, if you haven't seen it, Marcus Miller for Student Body President, go there, like it. And I'd be happy to actually talk to you all a lot more about this. Tomorrow, from 2:15 to 4, I'm going to be in ASC with some Chick-fil-A, so come out there. Neat. That's already one of the promises, if I do say so myself. Will I be able to do all the things you say you're going to do? Yes.
There you have it. All right. Responses from the other candidates. Who wants to go first?
So you say you're going to be taking online classes, and a majority of our interactions are in person in physical classes. How are you going to do that? How are you going to interact with people in a more organic way?
I have a laptop, and I can do those in ASC. Online classes in ASC, so I could be available, which is one of the biggest things that I want to encourage myself to do and everyone else, is to just be available, do things, enjoy your time here. Academics are great, but in order to be a spiritually whole individual, you've got to have a balance. And if you overwork yourself, you aren't going to have as good of a time or as wholesome of a time here than you could. That answer your question?
Do John or Josh want to ask a question for this? If no, that's okay. But making sure you guys have your chance. All right. You want to?
Okay.
Be decisive.
I'm trying to think of a question.
Well, in response to his answer, yes.
I guess what ways, like now, have you been able to kind of do the things that you want to do as student body president?
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of the three C's that I have are Christ, communication, and community. Because I'm Baptist and I have to have three of things. So, every Baptist church you go to, three things. And so, all three of those can kind of be encompassed in, I'm going to be stereotypical here and say hootenanny. Because hootenanny is such an awesome combination of those three things because it's all the student body, it's the faculty, it's the staff, it's the administration. It's everyone coming together to perform this show for the student body at large to kind of have a break from academics, to kind of have a breather from their day-to-day life, and to kind of come in here, sit, and for 2.5 hours, forget about their own worries and worry about the things that are going on stage in front of them. Live through somebody else. And that's kind of a hootenanny thing. But as far as the question of what I've been doing right now, again, the Chick-fil-A thing, building community. I'm working on hootenanny right now, which is going to be a very broad scoped project. Last year for Hootenanny Impossible, we had over 157 people in the credits. And I didn't have Caleb last year to project manage, so I literally had to go to each one of those people and ask if they wanted to be in this show. And we filmed a movie, and we did the stage show.
All right, that's about 1 minute for your response there.
Does that answer your question a little bit?
All right, we'll move on to you, Josh. You are extremely focused on interpersonal relationships based off your interview. Historically, the role of student body president has required the ability to work with large groups and oversee large-scale organization. How are you still a good choice for this position? 2 minutes.
Well, quite frankly, when you put it like that, I'm probably not. But, the first thing that comes to mind when I think about something like that, and maybe a sense of overwhelming amounts of work or people, I just think of, the verse, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. And that would essentially be my battle cry in that, because I'm going to be real with y'all. There's not a day that goes by where life can get a little overwhelming. I'm a PA. I'm blessed to be a PA. God has graciously allowed me to be on the baseball team here, to be going to all my classes, and to be very involved with so many people. And because of that, I've had the ability and the privilege to make a lot of meaningful relationships. And the principle there, I think, is something that's said best by my church that I go to, New Beginnings Baptist Church, where they have life groups after the main service. And the whole purpose of the life groups is to make big church small. And so in God's perfect timing, I believe that He has brought me to this point and used me to be able to both invest and be invested in by so many of the amazingly unique and wonderful students at this university, that I can take something like a large group and make it small and go back and forth from that. And that's how I feel like God will be able to use the position that He's put me in to represent the overall student body as a whole.
All right, thank you. Responses from candidates?
You mentioned you're in baseball, right? I bet you were expecting this question. Maybe? No? Okay. No, baseball or all athletics are such a time commitment, right? You work out together, you eat together, you play the games together. It's athletics in itself. Just from a student who's not in athletics, it seems like you kind of not necessarily cut yourself off, but you're not as involved with the other students as you would be if you were in engineering or aviation. And that could just be the time commitment or things like that. But since student body president is kind of an everyday 24-hour gig, how would you kind of balance that if you can balance it?
I'm glad you asked. Honestly, I want to confess something else to you. Up until about a month and a half ago or so, I thought that I was here for baseball, honestly. I thought I was here to get an education and play baseball. But over the past year, God has been molding me to understand that baseball is really not why I'm here. You know, school isn't why I'm here. I could definitely get a kinesiology degree from somewhere else for much less. You guys are why I'm here. And I truly believe that God has instilled in me a love and a care for and a passion for y'all that is uniquely sacrificial. And you know, we all know the verse, "Greater love hath none than this, that a man should lay down his life for his friends." And so with that, I think I've been able to prove that even with my busy schedule, even with, you know, all the conflicts in time, that there are a lot of meaningful relationships out there that I have been able to have the privilege of cultivating and being blessed by, that counteract any of those time commitments.
All right, that's time for that.
So are you still in baseball?
I am still in baseball. I just understand that that's not the reason why I'm here. Because ultimately, you know, God puts us in specific places, not necessarily for that reason alone. You know, our roles are not going to change by the position that He puts us in. So whether I'm student body president, thank you. So whether I'm student body president, whether I'm in the starting lineup of the baseball team, God is going to use me in the same way. But I believe that He's calling me to go deeper and deeper into the sacrificial love that He is calling us all into. And that is why I felt led to run for student body president. So whatever we do, our performance of whatever we say, whatever we do, whatever we think, is not going to change God's
Running out of time.
But I mean, this is important. I just want to understand that what God is doing. He's doing amazing things. You can see the possibility of there being 4 PA athletes next year. There's a possibility of there being a RA in Davis. Okay.
All right, so what we're going to do now is, up here it says audience question, but I'm going to try something different first. Do any of the candidates have just questions for each other? I think we had some good dialogue going on, and I'd like to continue that a little bit. So, do any of you have specific questions for each other? And you can continue that as we go to the audience question. Facebook, if anybody wants to start off with one of those. No? All right, we'll go to audience questions. All right, well, I think fitting we start off with our question.
So I've got a specific question for each candidate. I'm going to start with Josh. First question later. Can you give me a reason why you think?
All right, let's see if we can make this work here. I know that y'all can hear with the mics, but our Facebook Live audience can't, so that's why I'm pushing on the mics.
That does remind me, my mom and dad are watching at home. Mom, Dad, I love you. Thank you for all your support, loving me regardless of how fragile I am.
Thanks.
Anyways, I'm glad you asked, Marcus.
Obviously, there needs to be a disparity between your view of athletics of athletes can't do what normal people can, and then I want to go support them anyway. So if you do explain that.
Yeah. Restate the question.
You question Josh's ability
Yeah.
to devote his time to both the student body and the athletics.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this, I was on the rugby team. I stopped because I injured myself. But Morgan Weaver was also an athlete. We have plenty of student body presidents who have been athletes. Why do you think that a person's ability to be an athlete is their ability to represent the student body?
I don't think it hinders the ability. The complication comes in to where they devote their time.
Where do you devote your time?
Where anyone devotes their time, right? So let's say, I don't know, how long is practice? Okay, so let's say a game like this.
Okay, this is not for Josh, this is for you. I want you to explain why you think an athlete is capable of running a student body president.
You said it yourself. Morgan Weaver, a bunch of past student body presidents have been athletes. What has changed?
All right. So it's never attacking.
No.
That was my question. Why were you attacking his ability to be an athlete? We'll go on. Chris, obviously, there's this question of communication. I've been in the role for a while, and so you were kind of saying, how are students going to know about stuff that's going on with executive cabinets or things like that? Obviously, there is a level of structure that gets in the way of things happening. There's a level of student involvement. Certain students just don't care. My question is, how are you going to inspire students to basically want to know?
So all the students here just show that people do care. As for the structure, I grew up in Japan 13 years, and talk about structured society, I really don't like going around stepping on people's toes. So my campaign promise is to publish everything as much as I can with the permission of those who are involved in it. So I do want to respect the structure that we have, and it's led to good things. Structure is good because it gives people expectations, and I don't like having things that are unexpected.
All right, Robert, obviously we have this discussion of leadership. There is a lot of leadership that's involved in the executive cabinet, and as student body president, it took a lot of training and learning for myself to be a leader that was able to effectively basically bring the student body executive cabinet together. What are you going to do to prepare yourself for the position if you were to be the body president?
I think the main way that I will be preparing for that is just through continuing to observe the way that it works and what student government does, and to just learn from that. And then also, I have other people that I know that are in student government and just ask them for advice. So when I don't know something, find somebody that does know so that I can learn.
Well, I welcome you to meet with me anytime you want to. All right, John. Last question, there was this discussion of basically laid backness, waiting for answers or questions to be asked. I've been in the Board of Trustees, meetings, and it takes a level of putting yourself out there for them to even hear you or ask questions. How do you plan to break past your, timidity? It's probably not the right word. To get the things that students, care about out into the discussion of these older adults who have a bunch of experience. What I would say quite intimidating. How do you plan to break past that?
Yeah, I think two things. One, I think this role lends itself to that, and so kind of growing through this process and experiencing meeting with people that I've been comfortable with even already. Met with Dr. Lunsford. Talking to him was kind of intimidating, and that's a process that only grew. And then the second thing, we'll think about it for a second. Yeah, I think having answers and having important issues, important things that I care about, things that the student body cares about. I think that that kind of gives some thrust to asserting myself. And there, I know you said timidity. I think there's times where it's good to be listening, and I think there's also times where you have to speak up. And as an RA, I've experienced that in several situations, having to speak up, having to confront people. So I think it goes both ways.
All right. Well, thank you, Marcus, for all of those. Those are good, but let's try to keep it a little bit small. Let's move across the board here. Senator Yohe, all the way in the back. I have to choose people. I don't like this part of the job.
All right, this question's for you, Marcus. Will you be able to do more than quote-unquote put on a show as student body president? Your experience in Hootenanny and your performance here tonight seem to emphasize sensationalism rather than real relationships.
Keeps getting more savage. This is great.
What does President Lunsford do? Follow my rabbit trail.
I'm failing to see where you're leading to this. I would
Yeah,
just like
no.
to address this.
Yeah. President Lunsford, as a whole, is the figurehead of LeTourneau University. His primary job is not to deal with the day-to-day activities. That's why he has Dr. Morgan. That's why he has Steve Kahn, right? His job is to raise money for the university. As student body president, our job, my job, if I'm elected, is to be the arm of Dr. Lunsford that doesn't have time to deal with the students. Not necessarily that he doesn't want to deal with the students, but that he just doesn't have time in his busy schedule. Now, as far as building relationships and things like that, during Hootenanny, working on a project to fulfill it, to make it whole, is such a team building experience. Any theater is team building, and like this tonight, like Josh in athletics, the team is a family, and the student body, the head needs to be the kind of the eyes and ears, and lets the students be empowered through that. I'm going around in circles.
So as a follow-up question,
Yeah.
As a student, I want the student body president to be somebody who seems to genuinely care about students, and that's something that I don't think you've demonstrated as well as the other candidates have tonight. What would you say to that? I don't think we've seen that side of you. So,
yeah.
I can literally hear crickets chirping. Oh yeah, that was not scripted.
The care that I have towards the student body, towards the individuals that are here, that are watching on Facebook Live, that are in their dorms doing their homework right now. It does come off as kind of like show busy, show person-y. Because that's how I personally am wired by God to connect with people. I'm not like the sincere, quote the Bible verses kind of guy. The connections that I like to make are, I mean, they are primarily positive. They are primarily fun. They are primarily fun-spirited, because in my kind of exposure to the students here, they already have their serious, kind of heart-wrenching things doing their homework with the professors, or with things like that. Some of them do. Some of them do. But that's also why we have LSM, you know? Like, that is primarily the job of LSM. That's the Laterno Student Ministries. The president is the figurehead. The president is the face of the student body. And it's making the connections with the people that people remember that really expand that and make it a memorable experience to either talk to them or to enjoy their time here. I'm all about making experiences at school because, I mean, homework's great, but once you pass that test, once you get out into the field, you're not going to remember that one dynamics homework that you had on February 17th, 2015. You're going to remember going to Hootenanny. You're going to remember going to a stage right play. You're going to remember going to the Yak dance, the first ever dance, right? And those are the times that you're going to look back on and that you're going to cherish through your photo album or iCloud album or something like that.
It looks like Josh has a question.
Marcus, I'm sorry, but I would have to disagree. The figurehead of the student body is Christ. And that's the only figurehead that we have. The student body president is only a tool that should be seen but not noticed. And that is the role of the student body president. And I firmly believe that if we are not actively pointing our students to the figurehead of Christ through our actions, then we are not doing our job well, and we don't deserve to be in that position in the first place.
Right. A lot of hands have gone down. I suspect things. Would you like to respond to that? Yes. Is this debate? We can have that.
That did come out confusing. And I'm sorry if I implied that was not, that the president, the student body president, like the figurehead. That's not what I meant at all. But his specific question was what the student body president is. I mean, I hope that since we go to Laterno and it is a private Christian university, that we kind of acknowledge and know from our Bible classes and from everything that we do here that Christ is the one that we gain our strength from. And I think that, just kind of going off of the second point that you said, the president should be seen and not heard, then what's the point of having a president if they're not going to do anything? If they're not going to say anything, if they're not going to empower change, or if they're not going to affect change, or if they're not going to be able to talk to the student body. You know, if they're just seen and not heard.
I would like to know. He said seen but not noticed, by the way, Mark.
Seen but not noticed. I'm sorry. Seen but not noticed. Thank you, Marcus. My alter ego. I think there's.
I think we've run this kind of into the ground. Let's go with different questions. Let's start before the front. Yeah, just pick one near you. You pick.
All right, I have a question for Josh. Actually, no letter.
Asking for a friend.
Okay, I'll start with John. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I was looking at your Facebook campaign and your page and everything like that. And,
a little bit further away from your mouth there.
Yeah. So you talked a lot about discipleship and like forming small groups and like making like a retreat for like students and stuff like that. So I was wondering, don't you think that would be more fitting for like the LeTourneau student Allison president or like the VP for missions? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think as student body president, you're in charge of executive cabinet, so that includes LSM and that includes YAC. And I think with discipleship, I think that is a multi organizational effort, and I think that's something that YAC and LSM and other organizations can be involved in as well. Specifically with the retreat and looking at developing discipleship on campus. I think as a student body president, having that executive cabinet, having kind of giving direction, giving vision to the cabinet. I think discipleship is something that I'm very interested in doing. That's something that I'd really like to see happen more on campus. Does that answer your question, Leonard?
Yeah. Can I ask another question?
Sure, quickly.
For my brother Chris. So I was wondering, why do you want to be the student body president?
Jack just asked me yesterday, and it was, let's see. Okay, so vulnerability time. I've been doing a lot in general for LES, yeah, but a lot of other places. So Jack was wondering, hey, Chris, are you doing this just so you feel like you're recognized with everything you do? I'd have to disagree with that. It was something I was thinking about too. But I've seen lots of points for improvement, and just with my relevant experience and how much I care for the people here, I think it's just the logical conclusion of my time here at LeTourneau, since I only have 1 year left. Does that answer your question, Leonard?
Yeah, thanks.
All right.
All right, and just one more thing. Josh, just curious, how much did you bench?
That's the most I'll abstain from that.
All right, another candidate has a question, Mr. Traeger. I see you guys. We're going to try and hit as many of these as we can, but I'm fine staying here late. I don't know about the rest of you.
All right, so this is going to be for Josh and for Marcus. Josh, when you were saying a lot of your answers, you were rather vague on the implementation of your policies and where you wanted to make some change. So part of that would be, can you be more specific? And Marcus, to you, the same question.
Absolutely. Well, yes and no, I should say. Because ultimately what I believe that the role of student body president is truly in its just present state is more of a reactionary role. And so something I've talked with our present president about is the fact that while it is easy for someone to come in and make a lot of promises and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, ultimately what's more important is handling the issues that are pressing at the time. And so really the role of the president comes down to the circumstances that surround you. And I believe that in seeking to really truly become a gospel-centered community, all else falls in under that. And really my platform, you know, the thing that I desire most is to see us actually be a unified student body. But not only that, but in seeking to become a gospel-centered community, stray away from being the student body of LeTourneau University to becoming the body of Christ at LeTourneau. Because ultimately that is our calling. And so I know that sounds really vague again, but vague in this sense is almost, I would say, a lack of inability to understand the way that God moves, because God moves in a mysterious way. And I'm telling you right now that I don't know what the situation, the circumstances are going to be come August or September of this year. But I do know that we have serve a faithful God who's gracious and faithful to present us and give us the gifts and abilities we need to handle the situations that come upon us. And so it is my goal, ultimately, to continue seeking out meaningful relationships, and through that, increase our community, increase our unity. Because ultimately, like in Philippians 2, we are called to consider others as more significant than ourselves. And in doing that, and in seeking to become a gospel-centered community, that's how we'll experience walls breaking down between the different cliques, between the barriers, between different groups of students. And that's what I want to see. That's what I know God will continue to do, because He's doing it right now, and we can see it all around us. We can see it in the fact that I had the blessing of going and having breakfast a couple weeks ago with an RA from Thomas, with a bunch of athletes, that I can tell you right now, if it weren't for the gospel and its active work in transforming our lives and hearts, there's no reason that a group of athletes should be with someone like this specific RA in Thomas Hall. And so that's all I can tell you there, because I don't know what I can do, but I know what God can do.
All right, thank you. Can we try to, you guys are all given good answers, but let's try to tighten up the answers as much as we can so we can have as many people as possible. Andrew, I've seen you back there, like waving me in on the ramp, so I'll give you a question real quick. Oh, did you have one?
Or he has.
Oh, that's right. Okay. That's right. So let's keep this relatively quick.
I've kind of dissected what Christ community and communication are on my Facebook page. Here we go again. But I'm also getting posters that are going to have what those specifics are that I'm looking forward to implementing that defines each of those. But as far as the presidency being reactionary, I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because positive change, it can happen by reaction, but in the newer models, at least in aviation safety, proactive change is better to implement. Just if we're taking an aviation and a viewpoint on it. And so proactive change, seeing how things are, and then finding a few things that we can change and test it, see how it works. And if those don't work, then go back to the drawing board and start the process over again. But you can't know what doesn't work until you try it.
All right, thank you. And didn't mean to cut you off there, but thank you for reminding me that he asked you as well. So in order to facilitate as many questions as possible, I'm going to go ahead and put a 30-second time limit on answers. I know that's harsh, but I want as many of you as possible to get to ask your questions. You may have 30 seconds. I give thee 30 seconds.
In regards to change, ultimately change is not going to come from me, you, Chris, Robert, John. It's not going to come from anybody that's in the executive cabinet. It's going to come from you. And that's the only thing it's going to come from, because we can do all the things that we want. We can put on as many events as we want, but ultimately if the student body is not actively backing that up, it means nothing.
All right, thank you. And I promised you an answer. Andrew, again, let's keep this as quick as possible. Where'd my mic people go?
Two things. One, as a former sound engineer, please do not tap on the mic or do any mic drops. It's really bad for the mics. And two, this is for either Marcus Miller and Robert, so you can decide who was going to go first. Out of all the 5 candidates standing up here, you two have the least known about why you're trying to go for the position. So why exactly are you trying to go for this position?
Are you asking all 5 candidates that?
No, just Marcus and Robert.
All right. 30 seconds apiece, please. Marcus? Actually, Robert, you go first. Keep forgetting I have to do this. Work.
All right. I'm going for this position because having joined Senate this year, I've started to get more of a grasp on what student government is, and I feel like just because of my perspectives on the university, there are things that I could do to improve the way that it works and the way that it's able to serve the students and connect them to the administration.
Thank you. And Marcus, 30 seconds.
I want to be a servant leader that God uses to make a positive and fun impact on the student body.
All right, thank you. Back in the back, start there. Navigate the sea of people. I'm trying to find the people that are the hardest to reach. It's like parkour kind of. I'm branching out. This is actually an event.
This question is for Robert and Marcus. Before y'all both announced your candidate, before you announced you were running, I had very few / no interaction with either one of you. And I was wondering how you both are going to improve that, because as a student body president, something I've noticed being a freshman is that interacting with students is one of your main jobs, knowing what the students want. And I did not ever see, like I saw you guys, but I'm pretty approachable and I tend to approach others a lot, and I did not interact with you guys as much as I would like to. So how would you improve that, and what would that look like for both of you?
All right, Marcus, 30 seconds.
That's a great question, Star, and I'm glad that we've gotten to kind of know each other these past couple of weeks, your brother being the RA of my floor and everything. It's kind of an interesting conundrum, because you are a freshman, and so a lot of the things that you would have seen me around in, had you been here last year or the year before, that kind of would have made it a little easier, I guess. But as far as freshmen specifically,
yeah, that's time.
Oh, I'm sorry. As freshmen specifically, I want to go to the freshman preview events and actually introduce myself to everybody.
I do want to take a moment to say to the candidates, this is not personal. I know most of you probably hate me by now, but I am doing, thank you, this to the best of my ability to maintain fairness and unbiasedness.
You're a good man, though.
30 seconds.
The main way that I would focus on fixing that is just to be available and to go to events, to just have time that I'm available to speak with people, so things like the 11:11 coffee, and just continue things like that.
All right, Matt Johnson, you had your hand up for a kind of long time.
Since I got the mic, I might as well ask a question. So,
seize the power. And get fired.
I was going to ask this to Marcus. I'm going to say this like in the most sincere way possible. Since you're running for president, why does it feel like, you're kind of going at other people instead of kind of worrying about what you got to do and kind of the things you got to change? I thought it was almost disrespectful at a point the way you were, interrupting people, and you didn't really prove your point well, and I was just curious about that.
30 seconds.
Yeah, that's a good question. I came into this debate kind of with the preconceived notion that this was going to be a cage battle that they
I don't know
kind
how
of
anyone could
sponsored.
have gotten that idea.
So I apologize if I came off as abrasive, but I thought that's what this was going to be like. And I apologize if I was instigating that.
All right, Matt Johnson.
All right. Oh, my. I actually have a question for Justin, relating that I hope will give some insight to this.
Okay.
Throughout
the surprise 11th hour candidate.
So I'm by no means claiming that I'm an expert, but I do have several years of leadership experience at varying levels with varying levels of responsibility. And one of the largest things that I've noticed with that is being able to work with your superiors and the people directly below you in that. So as the only vice presidential candidate, it appears that you are going to be our vice president. By analyzing yourself and knowing your own strengths, what do you believe would be important for a student body president to have in order to fill in the gaps that you do not?
And for this question, I'm going to go ahead and give you a minute.
So to clarify, what am I looking for in a president to help?
Yes.
To help with my overseeing of Senate.
It sounds like he's looking for an endorsement, but yeah.
I'm not going to
Not
make you
be
say any
appropriate.
candidate specifically, but knowing that you're going to be working as a team, what do you believe a student president should bring to the table that will fill in your weaknesses to make the most productive combination vice president that you could be?
If you read the Constitution, you see that Senate actually's role is to assist the president. I actually noticed this last night, or Monday night, when we were doing some reworking of the Constitution. It's our first Thursday. Assist the president. So, I guess if I was to be president, what I would hope for, if I felt like I had that or ability to do so, would be to lead spiritually in that role to the students, and also bring forth community. One big thing in Senate has been trying to get interaction with athletes. Recently, Justin and Ryan Gibbs joined Senate, which has been great. I like seeing more athletes in Senate. I think that's bringing everyone kind of together. So that's one thing, just more community overall. There's huge division between the school. It's not very big. I guess it is big. Depends on who you talk to. But sometimes it's floor level division. Sometimes it's athletes versus everyone else. I like to see that all that go away. Still have those defined, but have interactions between everybody else. Does that answer your question thoroughly?
All right.
Not exactly, but I've taken up enough time.
Say we probably have time for about 3 more questions here. Rillo. Trying to pick the people who've had their hand up for the longest. I apologize if I miss you. I'm doing the best I can here.
So these questions have been pretty serious so far, so I have a little bit of a lighter-hearted question. You're all kind of trying to cross the bridge to being student body president, and generally when you cross bridges, you have to answer a few questions. So what is your quest, as in your #1 goal as student body president, and what is your favorite color? And this is to each of you, and do it a sentence or less.
Chaplain Carl, if you're watching, this was for you.
You forgot the best one. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
All right. Yeah. As he said, 1 sentence.
Yeah, discipleship in the color blue.
My quest is to have more integration of the student body into student government, and my favorite color is currently undecided, so probably tan, because I tend to pick rather generic colors arbitrarily.
Knowledge is power, and red.
To bridge the gaps between students and the administration, and anything but beige. Beige is boring.
Ultimately, just to see the gospel proclaimed in Christ's name, put above everything else, and that everything falls in. And blue, sting 'em.
All right, 2 more questions in the pink back there. Yeah.
Okay, so my question's for John. Thank you. Wow, you can hear me now. So my question is for Josh. You seem to be talking a lot about spirituality, and so my question is, why did you decide to go for student body president and not LSM president?
Very, very good question. And I'm going to give you a seemingly vague answer. But ultimately, it just came down to about 2 months ago. Boss, this can be short. About 2 months ago, I wasn't going to run. A month and a half ago, I wasn't going to run. Something around there. And I realized that in my thinking that I had an inability to properly serve the student body as the student body president. That, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But ultimately, I think it just comes down to knowing where God can use you most and where He's most glorified through your work. And the reason why that I'm running for student body president now is because I believe that that work that I will be doing as student body president is a continuation of what He's had me doing now.
All right.
And I believe it'd be different at LSM. So if that makes sense. Thank you, Megan.
All right. See a lot of fingers pointing towards somebody, so Michaela, take our last question.
I have,
Every time, everybody.
So I have 2 questions, one for everyone and one specifically for Marcus. Marcus, I'm asking this because I'm curious. Rumor has it from a talk that you had previously is that you want to change Senate so that Senate's not done by floors, that it's done by majors around campus. And I want you to clarify that, dispel that rumor however that you want to do it, or explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so this was kind of an idea that I was bouncing off of a couple of people. It wouldn't be changing Senate. Senate is going to be the same. What would change? It would be a new organization. It would be a major's kind of, each major that we have at LeTourneau is going to have 1 volunteer or 2 people that speak specifically for the major to executive cabinet. This is different than Senate because Senate is by floor. Senate, if we think about the United States, is the House of Representatives, right? It's the population, whereas majors can speak for the specifics of what engineering needs, what aviation needs. And we would include athletics, and we would include the societies within that.
So to clarify that, you wouldn't be changing Senate and saying that there are different, representatives. You would take that differently. You would have representatives specifically from each major go and talk to the executive cabinet.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And that would work around their schedule. So it wouldn't be like every Thursday. It would be once a month, or sometimes if we need a session to happen. If there's a big change, or that way we can kind of keep up to date with what teachers are new, what teachers were let go, why were they let go, why the communication barrier is so big that nobody knows what's going on.
Okay. So then, second question for everybody. Earlier we talked about with Yak how tradition has been changing on campus, and if you talk to people's parents who have come here beforehand, they say LeTourneau's completely changed. So one of the biggest things is that there's floor community and school community. So how do you plan on promoting floor community as well as promoting school community and making them work in unison, especially with promoting athletes and promoting other students on campus?
So,
and since this is for all candidates, I'm just going to go ahead and start it down the line here.
But my previous thing just worked so well into that. Okay.
Thank you. Structure and fairness.
Yeah, thank you.
30 seconds, please.
Good question. I think the executive cabinet, I said it earlier, includes YAC and it includes LSM. I think the role of the student body president is to provide direction and provide some sort of target to aim for.
The way that I would focus on improving both floor community and school community would be through trying to find ways to make Senate more powerful, because that way the floors have a chance to actually interact as floors, but also as part of the school.
Follow-up question to that then, if I may.
You may, but 30 seconds on the candidate.
So Senate right now is having a problem getting people just even to cooperate in that. So why does making Senate more powerful promote floor community?
I feel like people would be more motivated to be part of Senate if Senate were able to actually accomplish more, and I say that as somebody in Senate.
I was on Senate too, and I know that Senate does a lot, and I know that Senate's a huge part of this campus, but as of right now, and how it works, Senate does not necessarily promote floor community. It helps get floors involved and gives information. So why does making Senate more powerful promote floor community then?
It would require the senators to actually become more of a floor leadership position, which is the way that I feel it should be, so encouraging that.
Okay, thank you.
At 1111 Coffee on Tuesday, we were talking about leadership roles and strengthening the ties and communication between RAs and chaplains and senators. And I think that's a really critical thing to floor community. But a big thing I think we're all forgetting is, or hasn't been mentioned, is commuters. A lot of YAC events are scheduled at night. Why don't we schedule some things during the day while there are classes and commuters on campus so they can participate in the school community?
I think one of the biggest challenges we've had specifically this year is we don't have a chaplain, or we don't have a campus pastor. And so the chaplains that would be on the floors kind of don't have a figurehead to Jesus is the biggest figurehead, don't have the chaplain figurehead to kind of look up to. And so I think that kind of has put floor community on a stasis right now. Hopefully we'll have a new one next semester. If we don't, then we'll just work through that. But with the floor community and the majors, people go to Senate because they are involved, they're invested in the school. And so if we can find a way to make people invested, make people want to get there, it's the question that I asked you earlier. What do I get out of this? What do you as a student body want to achieve this next year? And so I think that's how you build floor community, by getting people involved, by making people aware of what's happening, by bridging the gap, by enhancing communication.
Michaela, would you be sweet and tell the last candidate question one more time? Because honestly, you forgot it.
What is your plan to not only promote floor community, but school community at the same time? I feel, as a student, a lot of people feel like, as of right now, it seems like floor community is just kind of being pushed to the side in favor of athletics and school community. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's just being pushed to the side. And so, how do you plan on promoting both at the same time?
30 seconds, please.
Yes, and something that I had the privilege of being a part of was Spirit Week, and I really did. I had the utmost privilege of helping YAC and serving alongside them to come together with an idea like Spirit Week that did involve athletics, floor unity, and overall campus community, all in one big conglomerate, you know. And so hopefully, with the wonderful people that surround me and just you guys coming up with great ideas, because everyone knows you're full of them, you're freaking Laterno students, we're going to come up with even more great ideas like Spirit Week and better it and make improvements and be flexible to change. So.
All right, thank you. I don't know if all the non-senators in the room probably don't realize this, but I have been getting texts and messages from half the people in this room saying, answer this question, answer this question. I've taken that into account for a few of these questions, and seemingly half of the people in the room have told me to answer Martha's question, so we'll do one more. I'm really excited to see what this is.
Since the mic's in my hand again, basketball game tomorrow at 7:30. Everybody come out.
Thanks. So we've off and on skirted around between theoretical questions and practical questions. And I really wanted to hear a little bit more of the practical pieces from you all. It's great to hear your overarching vision, but I feel like that's what we get a lot from your campaign materials and your Facebook pages. In terms of practical vision, ideally, obviously you can't do this. You'll have your first meetings already scheduled out, probably meeting with Dr. Lunsford and the board of directors and things like that. But if you could schedule your first meeting, and it could be with anyone, about anything, what would your meeting be about, and who would it be with?
All right, we'll just go back down the line the other direction. 30 seconds if we can. Try to do that.
I would most likely have that meeting be between myself, Elizabeth Mingus, who is the coordinator for the peer advisors, and most likely the chaplain, because I believe that the peer advisor program is a large component, of retention, and I believe that the state of our spirituality is also a very large component of our retention rate, because ultimately our perspective about the things that we're going through are defined by the state of our walk with Christ. And so those two people to me are two of the most crucial individuals and important people on this campus. But at this time, we don't have a chaplain. So hopefully the Lord will provide us with a great person then.
And what would that meeting be about?
Kind of like just what I've talked about there. Ultimately, just seeking to understand more why it is that we struggle to keep students, because it is a problem that we have, and just understanding in what ways can we improve the spiritual formation program, improve the peer advisor program, understanding how we can do things like the January Bash, and whoever came up with that horrible name better in the future. It was me, yeah. That was horrible. But yeah, I don't know. Does that answer it, Martha?
That does answer your
All right.
question.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you restate the question? I'm sorry.
Okay, if you could schedule your first meeting to be about anything and with anyone, what would your meeting be about, and who would it be with?
Yeah, I'd meet with the executive cabinet, and then I would meet with the members of those majors for the major cabinet that I want to create, so we can get the ball rolling with that as fast as we can. Because really, if you can create a centralized form of communication to disseminate information early on, then that will influence the rest of the semester. I'd have that with Steve Kahn, with Christy Morgan, and then whoever we decide the executive cabinet will be next semester, as well as the Constitution people for Senate to kind of assist in the rewriting or the development of that program.
All right, let's go.
Side note, the Constitution's already mostly written, and that's available on the wiki right now.
It would be an amendment.
So ideally, my first meeting would be a meeting with the current executive cabinet to learn from their successes and their mistakes, procedures that they've gone through, so I can be, and as students, would be more successful at the get-go. Then I would meet with Steve Kahn so I could get in with the new student orientation to meet incoming freshmen.
I would probably have a meeting with the YAC president, chair of the student committee in Senate, and then the deans of the various schools for academics, and try to figure out a way that we can get professors more involved in the student community and events and such.
Yeah, I think just in thinking about your question a little bit, I think honestly the first thing that I would do would be meet with executive cabinet, meet with impact leaders, and I would pray with them. And I think that's honestly what I would do, because I think it's a big responsibility, and it's definitely over a lot of our heads, and having Christ at the center and having him be the one that's guiding us and leading us, I think that's vital to this whole role and responsibility.
All right. Well, those answers were all really different. That's actually pretty cool. That one of the biggest problems we deal with at these things are everybody sounds the same, and I think these candidates have done a pretty good job distinguishing themselves. And again, apologies if I didn't get to your question. We went probably, 2 or 3 times beyond what we've allotted for this segment, but we're going to move into the closing statements, which will have 1 minute for each candidate to sum up everything that has happened in the last hour and a half or so, and say conclusively why they are the correct choice for this position. And again, we'll just go down the line. We'll start with you, John. You have 1 minute to do this.
Yeah. So the two things I'm really interested in are discipleship and encouragement of students. I talked a little bit about discipleship, and I think encouragement comes through supporting athletes. I think it comes through supporting co-curricular and extracurricular activities that students are interested in. It comes with empowering students to find avenues that they can invest in. Those are things that I'm very interested in. I'm definitely a quieter person. I definitely enjoy listening to people, and I think if I am elected as your student body president, I do want to hear your voice, and I do want to be the representative of your voice and your concerns to board of directors, to other people on campus. I definitely want to grow in this role and assert myself in a way that is meaningful to you all, and also.
The three main goals that I would have as student body president are two of them that have actually come up during the debates, and those are that I want to see Senate become larger and just gain more influence. And then also I'd like to see professors become more involved in the community. And then the third goal is to have a building open 24 hours, just because having a place to study late at night after 2 a.m. when ASC closes would be nice. And yeah, those are the three goals that I have.
So a lot of what I'm hearing from the other candidates for other positions from the Treasury is transparency and with YAC feedback. So my goal of transparency and having publications fits in with that great. And facilitating things, what LSM has said, Senate, doing grassroots things to inform people. Integration is another one of my goals. And longevity, I want to have documents for the successors to be able to refer back to for their success. And for, yeah. So with all the other candidates, Matt, your question about the best integrated candidate, I think I would be the one.
All right, thank you. Marcus?
I just want to take a moment to say thank you for coming out tonight. I know that you have so much you could be doing right now than sitting and listening to a bunch of people talk about issues. So thank you for coming out, even if we did bribe you with free pizza. Kind of, I guess, to wrap up my fun little paper, is to positively change the status quo, which encourages student retention, while being mindful of the time commitments that all the students here have. Because nothing is worse than having to be in 8 places at once and then not doing anything. And so building relationships, building the Christ-centered community that we want, and then increasing communication is at the forefront of my campaign. And I'll leave you with the question that I asked at the beginning.
That's time.
What do I want out of this? What do you want out of this?
Like a bouncer or something.
So I just would like to close by reading 1 Corinthians 16:7, and Paul is basically closing his letter to the Corinthians, and he tells them, "For I do not want to see you now just in passing. I hope to spend some time with you if the Lord permits." And that's my prayer for y'all, that I don't want to just have fake relationships with you. I don't just want to say hello to you in passing. I want to do life with you. I want to continue to do life with you. I want to serve you and sacrificially love you in whatever way I can, and whatever that looks like. And I'm willing to make all the sacrifices necessary to do that. And if I was to say one thing last, God be glorified.
Well, if you will permit me to make a couple of quick comments and remarks on this entire experience. It's been a little bit different than I expected. I've never done this before, and it's been eye-opening in some ways. It's not often that, despite our efforts in Senate to try and get the honest opinions of the students, it's always fun to come to these and hear what people are actually thinking. So that's been interesting. It's been interesting to have to hold my tongue a lot. There's a lot of stuff I want to comment on, but I'm committed to remaining as unbiased as possible in this election. But I do want to take a moment and encourage these 5 guys. Honestly, I'm impressed by all of you. You have all done, frankly, better than I expected you to do tonight. And that's a testimony to you guys. You're all motivated in very different ways. You're all committed in different ways to improving this campus and this body. And I would like to encourage you in that only one of you is going to win, but 5 of you are going to continue to shape and grow this campus next year. And that's exciting. We get, in a sense, we get all 5 of these people. Only one of them has the position, but all of these people are going to be leaders in some capacity. So with that, I would like to invite all of you to the elections chapel on Monday. That'll just be a normal chapel, show up, and I will be your host again. And each candidate will get 3 minutes to present a speech of their, that's true. For one of our candidates, question. No, did you have a question?
I was just going to ask if you had a prayer.
That's the plan. All right. But, so be in chapel on Monday. The ballot will be sent out via email. I'll explain that again. And it'll be available for 3 days. On our Senate Facebook page, I'm going to send out a survey allowing you guys to kind of rank who won the debates. And so we'll get some audience feedback there. And I also, frankly, I want to call some of the moderators at CNN and NBC that did the Trump-Clinton debates and apologize for judging them so harshly. You can't, it's hard to stop people that you like and people that you work with, and especially people that are saying really good things. So again, I hope all of you understand that that was for the purpose of even debate. I have nothing against any one of you. I think you're all qualified people. So that being said, I would like to close us in prayer, and we'll head out. All right. Lord, again, thank you for the privilege that it is to be here tonight. And as I was saying, these 5 people are going to have an impact on this campus in whatever role you place them. And I'd like to reiterate that it's you placing them there. What you want to happen here will happen. And I pray that, I've experienced a situation in the past where things didn't quite work out the way I wanted them to. I didn't end up in a position I wanted to end up in, and I was pretty upset about it for a while. But, the second I gave up on my plans and said, all right, what do you have for me? This new dawn kind of opened up. And I'd like to encourage the 4 candidates who won't win this election, Lord. Don't let them give up. Let them continue to make an impact here. Let them continue to be leaders. And that goes for the other contested positions as well. You can be a leader wherever you are. So thank you for the unending patience of this audience. We've gone very late tonight. And thank you for their interest, Lord. This is so exciting. I've been doing this for a while, longer than most students have, and I see the difference. There are so many more people who actually are committed to this student body and committed to the improvement of the student body, and that's you. So I give you the credit for that. All right. Thank you, Lord. Bless everyone here, and amen. All right. You guys have a good night. I'm sure these candidates will be willing to answer individual questions for a little bit if anyone wants to come up and talk to them. Thank you for our online viewers. We'll catch you next time.
I'm on good.